They faced gunfire, tear gas, and water cannons. And now a man who led them in days of anti-government demonstrations is behind bars after turning himself into authorities. But Venezuelan protesters were still in the streets after opposition leader Leopoldo Lopez's arrest Tuesday, demanding better security, an end to scarcity and protected freedom of speech. President Nicolas Maduro and his supporters also rallied, blaming the opposition for causing the very problems it protects. Clashes during days of demonstrations have already left 3 anti-government protesters and 1 government supporter dead, and the simmering tensions show no signs of letting up. The confrontation took a dramatic turn Tuesday, when Lopez, accused by the government of conspiracy and murder in connection with the recent violence, marched with a crowd of thousands of protesters before surrounding 2 National Guard troops. The options I had were leave the country, and I will never leave Venezuela, Lopez told the massive crowd. The other option was to remain in hiding, but that option could have left doubt among some, including some who are here, and we don't have anything to hide. Hours later at a rally with throngs of supporters, Maduro said the head of Venezuela's National Assembly had helped negotiate Lopez's surrender and was taking him to a prison outside Caracas. Maduro. Opposition leaders are fascist. Maduro described opposition leaders as right-wing fascists who planned seeds of fear and violence. He claimed they have U.S. backing and repeatedly tried to assassinate him and overthrow his democratically elected government. And he compared the opposition to an illness plaguing the South American country. The only way to fight fascism in a society is like when you have a very bad infection. You need to take penicillin, or rather the strongest antibiotic, and undergo treatment, he said. Fascism is an infection in Venezuela, and in the world, and the only treatment that exists is justice. Footage from Tuesday's demonstration shows lepers being led by National Guard troops to a military vehicle, waving to the crowd as he is placed inside, and even continuing to speak on a megaphone until the door is closed. Charges against him include murder, terrorism, and arson in connection with the protest. According to his party, Popular Will, Lapus denies the accusations. The party said in a statement calling for witnesses of the protest to send their own account of what happened to be used in his defense. A message on Lepard's Twitter account Tuesday night said he was on the way to a military prison, where party officials said he would be held at least until a court appearance scheduled for Wednesday. The post included a link to an apparently pre-recorded video message showing the opposition leader seated on a couch next to his wife, calling on Venezuelans to keep pushing for change. If you are watching this video, it is because the government has carried out one more abuse, full of lies, of falsehoods, of twisting facts and trying to manipulate the reality that we Venezuelans are living, he said. I want to tell all Venezuelans that I do not regret what we have done up to this moment in convoking the protest. The people came out. The people woke up. Yankee go home. Major social and economic problems in Venezuela have fueled the protest. But as the demonstrations gained steam, officials have pointed fingers at other factors, accusing the United States of plotting to destabilize the government. On Monday, Venezuela gave 3 U.S. diplomats 48 hours to leave the country, accusing them of conspiring to bring down the government. At Tuesday's rally, Maduro shouted, "Yankee go home," from the stage, drawing cheers from the crowd. 17-year-old dies during Venezuelan protests. The opposition has been defeated over and over again at the polls, and despite this decision by the people, it continues to call for marches and protests. Julio Rafael Calzit, a ruling party lawmaker, told CNN Espanol on Tuesday. The peace-loving Venezuelans feel very, very worried by the irrational, fascist leaning attitude and actions of a sector of the Venezuelan opposition, he said. This isn't the first time that bitter protest and counter-protest by supporters and opponents opponents of the government have threatened political stability in Venezuela over the past decade. Many of Maduro's claims of U.S. intervention, of assassination plots, were also lobbed by the late President Hugo Chavez. Chavez was briefly ousted in a coup in 2002, but otherwise outlasted the protest and repeatedly won re-election and ruled for 40 years until his death last year after a long battle with cancer. Venezuela expelled U.S. diplomats have 48 hours to leave. The U.S. State Department has repeatedly denied Venezuela's accusations, asked whether the United States backs Lopez. San John McCain told CNN Tuesday that his country backs the people's right to express their will, to object to corruption, the repression of the media, and the arrest of political dissidents. Opposition leader: Government wants confrontation. The current protests are the biggest that the Maduro government has faced in its 11 months in power. The latest death came Monday, when a 70-year-old was hit by a truck and killed at a protest in the northeastern city of Carapano, a government official said. Lepa's party, Popular Will, has accused the government of being responsible for violence during the protests. At Tuesday's rally, Maduro stressed that the socialist revolution he now leads is peaceful and democratic. What I want is peace, dialogue, understanding, coexistence, Maduro said. It is what I want and what I'm doing. But another opposition leader said that the government's actions paint a different picture. The latest actions we've seen from the government indicate that, far from fomenting a climate of peace, it is trying to fortify the climate of confrontation and violence that the world has seen in images. Former presidential candidate Henrik Capriles told CNN in Espanol. Car- Capriles has backed away from calling for massive protest, saying they are ineffective and play into the government's narrative. But he said Lopez has his support. The protest will continue as long as the government gives no sign of resolving the problems of the Venezuelans, Cabral said. At least 7 people were injured when gunfire erupted during a protest Tuesday in the northern city of Valencia. In Tuesday, CNN affiliate Globovision reported. One of them, according to two officials who did not wish to be identified, was a local beauty queen. Clashes between protesters, police. And this is the second news. Coca-Cola, the world's ubiquitous brown fizzy drink, is staying afloat as the soda market shrinks, and many point to a marketing strategy around the so-called secret recipe as key to its resilience in a struggling industry. The Coca-Cola Company, which published its full four-year results Tuesday, recorded a 5% drop in net income to $8.6 billion last year, down from $9 billion in 2012, as it faced ongoing global macroeconomic challenges, according to its chief executive Muhtar Kent. Volume grew 2% for the year, which it said was below our expectations and long-term growth target. With sparkling beverages recording a slight increase of 1%, led by Coca-Cola. Globally, soda drink sales have been shrinking as consumers turn to water, fruit drinks and healthier alternatives. The trend has hit Coke and other market players such as PepsiCo and Dr Pepper. And while its primary competitor, PepsiCo, depends on its snack business to fuel the declining soda sales, Coke announced further investment into its marketing. In a tough market, one strategy that brand experts credit Coke's relative strength with is the mystery around the much hyped secret recipe. The very idea of mystery attracts attention, and it often seen as an element of quality, says social psychologist and marketing expert Ben Voyer. lecturer at the London School of Economics. A typical consumer would think that it must be a valuable product if they are doing all these things to protect the recipe. Coca-Cola's secret recipe story, on which it has centered adver advertising campaigns and built into its corporate museum, reaches back nearly a century. According to the multinational's website, the original recipe was only written down in 1919, more than half a century after a reported morphine addict and pharmacist John Pemberton invented the drink in 1866. Until then, it was passed down by word of mouth. The formula was finally committed to paper when a group of investors led by Ernest Woodruff took out a loan to purchase the company in 1919 as collateral. He, provided a written record of the Coca-Cola's secret formula. Coke said in a statement in its site, since the 1920s, the document sat locked in a bank in Atlanta, until Coca-Cola decided to emphasize the secret in its marketing strategy. 86 years later, Coca-Cola moved the recipe into a purpose-built vault within the world of Coca-Cola, the company's museum in Atlanta. The ambience is made complete by red lighting and fake smoke. Coca-Cola has always claimed only two senior executives know the formula at any given time, although they have never revealed names or positions. But according to an advertising campaign based around this recipe, they can't travel on the same plane. The vault, like one straight from a film, has a palm scanner, a numerical code pad, and massive steel door. Inside its walls, there's another safe box with more security features, and inside that, a metal case containing what its owners call the most guarded trade secret in the world, a piece of paper with, according to Coca-Cola, a recipe inside. But Mark Pendergrast, author of For God, Country and Coca-Cola, is skeptical. They kept the formula's secret, partly in order to increase sales with a sense of special mystery and to prevent competition, but also to keep people from knowing how cheap the ingredients were and how large the profits, he says. The company has never pan, patented, pan, patented the formula, saying to do so would require its disclosure, and once the patent expired, anyone would be able to use that recipe to produce a generic version of the world-famous drink. The the secrecy the, the secrecy creates a natural curiosity about the product itself. Consumers are more likely to try to find out the recipe, Boyer says. Adding it creates a legend around Coca-Cola's flagship drink. Scores of recipes have emerged through the decades. Their authors usually claim to have cracked the original recipe to getting hold of antique documents. So far, Coke has rejected all of them as fantasy, saying there is only one real thing. Mark Pendergast's book includes two versions of the original formula. One is facsimile in the handwriting of Frank Robinson, the unsung hero of Coca-Cola who named the drink, wrote the famous script logo, manufactured the drink in its early days, and advertised it, he says. Does he think the recipe is genuine? Uh, yes, I think that both of the Coca-Cola formulas in my book are the real thing. Versions of the original formula for Coca-Cola, he says. In the end, the exact formula isn't really the issue, he says. Pendergast reiterates a tale told in his book, in which he speaks to a Coca-Cola spokesperson who points out that even if its competitors got hold of formula, they wouldn't be able to compete. Why would anyone go out of their way to buy Yum Yum, which is really just like Coca-Cola but costs more, when they can buy the real thing anywhere in the world? He said he was told. And this is the third news. How many people can play the same video game? Not in the same video game, mind you, but play the exact same game at once? With the help of a social media robot, more than 80,000 people are currently trying. A version of Pokemon Red Blue, a 1990s game for Nintendo's Game Boy, has been streaming on Twitch TV, an online video platform devoted to gaming, for the past 5 days. A user known only by the gamer tag Twitch Plays Pokemon set up the social experiment to accept chat commands as the equivalent of button pushes. You know, typing up moves your character up, down moves him down, and whatnot. Except that tens of thousands of other people are doing the same thing at the same time. The resulting movements of the main character have been spastic, to say the least. Although the horde managed some success in the first few days, capturing several of those elusive Pokemon, the sheer the sheer number of people who now tapping comments into Twitch's chat and forth over the same spot, bang into walls and check his inventory with neurotic frequency. The page has been viewed more than 10.6 million times, with the number of active users peaking at about 81,000. This is one more example of how video games have become a platform for entertainment and creativity that extends way beyond the original intent of the game creator, said Matthew DiPietro, vice president of marketing for Twitch. By merging a video game, live video, live video and a participatory experience, the broadcaster has created an entertainment hybrid custom made for the Twitch community. The modified games creator, whose real identity is unknown at this point, has implemented some features to cut down on trolling and help with coordination. The start command has been disabled after people started spamming into the chat, and the game now has anarchy and democracy modes that players can select via a virtual voice vote. Anarchy is essentially the experiment's original form, in which everyone's command is applied immediately. In democracy, players are allowed to vote on their character's next move. It takes a vote from 75% of the players to switch modes, though, and you can imagine how easy that is. Fans of the game have created their own subreddit, Twitch Plays Pokemon fan art, progress tracking via a Google document and a Twitter feed. Twitch TV hopes this inspires others to transform gaming into entertainment. I didn't really have any plans for it from the beginning, the creator said in an email to gaming site Polygon. I just wanted to put it up to see how people would respond. I put it together to put it up on the dedicated server all within a few days. He or she has been keeping track of players' progress or lack thereof, and says it would be considered a win if their masses defeat the game's Elite Four uh, opponents who need to be bested before a final confrontation, but I have my doubts about it being possible without much better coordination, to each place spokesman wrote. And this is the fourth news. Thailand's bitter political crisis intensified Tuesday as 5 people were killed in clashes between anti-government protesters and police, and the country's anti-corruption commission filed charges against the prime minister. The violence erupted in the heart of Bangkok after months of protest against Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra that have deepened political divisions in the Southeast Asian nation. A police officer died after he was shot in the head, and 4 other people, at least 2 of them protesters, were also killed, officials said. 73 people, both police officers and protesters, were wounded in the clashes Tuesday. According to the Erawan Emergency Center, a medical unit monitoring the unrest in Thailand. 10 questions. What's behind the protests in Thailand? Police were trying to clear demonstrators who had been campaigning against Yingluck for months in central Bangkok, after police fired tear gas in an attempt to disperse crowds of demonstrators in the streets. People among the protesters began firing guns at police, with the two sides about 2,000 meters (6,056 feet) apart. Police responded by firing rubber bullets and live ammunition during the firefight, which lasted about 20 minutes. A grenade exploded near a group of police officers, knocking them to the ground. At least 4 of them were wounded, said Lieutenant Paradon Pathanathabut, the national security chief. Thousands of protesters, about 6,000 demonstrators, were estimated to be on the streets of the city Tuesday, Paradon said, and thousands of security personnel have been mobilized. Protesters opposed to Yingluck has been camped out since November at official buildings around the city, including Government House, the office of the Prime Minister, and appointed cabinet ministers. Leaders of the protest said they want Yingluck's government replaced by an unelected people council, which would oversee electoral and political changes. Clashes among pro and anti-government groups had flared up during the crisis, leaving at least 10 people dead and hundreds wounded. The government responded by imposing a state of emergency last month. Please move on. Until recently, authorities had largely refrained from confronting the demonstrators directly, even when they prevented large numbers of people from voting in recent elections. That changed last week as police began attempts to seize sites up, occupied by protesters for a month. Government officials said the protesters' actions were blocking public access to government services, making intervention by authorities necessary. Officials claimed public sentiment was turning against the demonstrators, but the protesters have so far refused to give way. Police said they arrested 145 protesters near the Ministry of Energy on Tuesday. Rice subsidy controversy. As the violence unfolded on the streets, Yingluck faced pressure on other fronts when Thailand's anti-corruption commission said it was bringing charges against her over a rice subsidy program. The National Center Corruption Commission said in a statement that it was calling Yingluck to appear February 27th to face charges that she failed to act on warnings of corruption in the program that her government introduced in 2011. The program, which offered farmers well above the market rate for their rice, has run into financial problems. Problems with the subsidy program have angered many farmers, who make up part of Yingluck's support base in the north and east of Thailand. The Anti-Corruption Commission's charges could eventually lead to the suspension of Yingluck from all political positions. In a televised speech before the Commission's announcement, Yingluck said the rice subsidy program had been successful over the past 2 years and accused her political opponents of obstructing the government's implementation of the project. She said there was no conspiracy to corrupt long-running crisis. Protesters say Yingluck is a puppet of her billionaire brother, the dispossessed, exiled former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. The protests were sparked in November by Yingluck's government's botched attempt to pass an amnesty bill that would have paved the way for her brother's return to the political fray in earnest. Yingluck had hoped the elections held earlier this month could help ease tensions, but the main opposition party boycotted the vote, and protesters caused widespread disruption that left the outcome of the election inconclusive, without enough results to reop- reopen parliament. It remains unclear when election officials will be able to complete the voting in these disrupted disrupted areas. The civil unrest of recent months is the worst to hit Thailand since a crackdown on pro-Thaksin demonstrators in 2010 left scores of people dead. And this is the last news. Downtown Kiev was aglow in fire early Wednesday as demonstrators under, under, undeterred undeterred by a bloody day on the street stakes their claim to the heart of the U- Ukrainian capital and, they hope, the heart of the country itself. Such flames have been a constant for 3 months, acting as fiery barricades all around Kiev's Maidan, or Independence Square, for protesters, yet the flames grew more ominous on Tuesday as at least 21 people died in fresh clashes between government forces and art activity, act, actives, activists. What began with protests over President Viktor Yan, Yanukovych's backpedaling from a trade pact with the European Union, a move that the opposition maligns, accusing Yanukovych of trying to cozy up to Russia rather than the West, has spun into something much larger. In addition to new elections, the opposition is calling for constitutional reforms to transfer more power from the resi- resident, presidency to the parliament. Vanuka and his allies have responded with some concessions, even offering places in government to opposition leaders. But on again, off again, talks have gone nowhere, with the opposition refusing to budge politically and from its positions in the center of Kiev. None of that changed after a face-to-face meeting overnight between Vanuk and opposition leader Vitaly Klitschko. Speaking to reporters afterward, Klitschko had said there effectively was no decision. According to his Ukrainian Democracy Democratic Alliance of Reforms Party. The president demanded protesters stop the standoff and put down their weapons, an accusation that Klitschko claimed is unfounded. I think the authorities should immediately pull back the police and stop the blood, because people are dying, Klitschko said. I told Yanu Yanukovych this. How can we negotiate when there is blood being spilled? Unfortunately, he does not understand it. What's behind Ukraine's political crisis? That latest day of political unrest. Tuesday's violence followed what seemed like a rare breakthrough. Protesters pulled back Sunday from Kyiv's city hall and unlocked streets in the city center after the government said it's dropped charges against those arrested in the political unrest. Then everything fell apart Tuesday. The, the Speaker of Parliament's refusal to allow amendments that would limit the president's powers and restore the constitution to what it is in 2004 angered many in the opposition. The government's prosecutor general, meanwhile, accused the opposition to breaking the truth and therefore setting the stage for the crackdown. For the sake of pursuing their own political interests, they neglected all previously reached agreements and put lives in and the peace of millions of Kiev residents under threat, said Viktor Bashek, Ukraine's prosecutor general. But whoever was to blame, there was no dispute. Tuesday was the deadliest day by far in the political unrest. Riot police used water cannons, stun grenades and other means to force their way through protesters, with video showing some of them toting shells and winging sticks as they barreled through. Some demonstrators fought back, swinging what looked like baseball bats or using other means. Protesters also set fire to the headquarters of the ruling party of regions. Authorities accused them of firing guns at security forces. A CNN employee at the scene saw demonstrators carrying pellet guns, though not with live ammunition. One video showed an armored personnel carrier charging toward demonstrators' barricades, only to be inundated by a flurry of what appeared to be Molotov cocktails. The vehicle then burst into flames. All the moving parts, different tas- tactics, and raw emotions con- contributed to a violent, chaotic melee in the center of Ukraine's capital. Officials officials warned people to stay indoors and shuttered metro stations to help control the station. The station hardly calmed as night descended. Black smoke and bright flames from burning tires continued to rage around Independence Square, just a few blocks from Parliament. Small explosions regularly erupted all night, the product of the protesters' fireworks and, perhaps, the stun grenades that police have been using to clear the crowds. Demonstrators also worked through the night to build up their barricades by forming human chains to pass bricks, rocks and wood up their front lines in anticipation of other people offensive. Iranian security forces did indeed move forward, despite a barrage of rocks, before halting their advance, for now, at least. Kiev was the center of the action, just like it has been all winter, with 9 police officers, 11 protesters and an employee from the ruling party's headquarters among those killed according to officials. But it wasn't just the capital. Police confirmed the unrest has spread to western Ukraine, with protesters attacking police and local government offices in a number of regions. Blame calls for restraint. Shanka, Ukraine's prosecutor general, blamed protesters for the violence that he said that, in addition to those killed, injured at least 100 others. The organizers of a rally Tuesday that descended into violence will be held accountable for every single person injured, every car burned and every window broken, he said. Today we were able to see that only the government is interested in peaceful resolutions of the situation, Shankar said. Opposition leaders would take the responsibility for everything happening in the street of Kiev today. Opposition leaders painted their supporters as the victims, not the aggressors. Klitschko, a former world-class boxer turned politician, accused police of cruelly shooting at people in central Kiev and Arseniy Yatsenyuk, an opposition leader from a party other than Klitschko's, made a public appeal to Yanukovych. Do not let Ukraine become a country covered with blood. Pull back the police and announce 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 a ceasefire. Then we will negotiate. U.S. Vice President Joe Biden himself pressed Yanyuk in a phone call with the White House, saying the government bears special responsibility to de-escalate the situation. Secretary of State John Kerry later backed up the vice president's words. He called for the Iranian government to halt violence immediately and open dialogue with the opposition. Kerry, United States, EU stand with Ukraine's people. On the flip side, Russia's state-run RIA Novosti's story on the latest Kiev unrest noted Moscow's persistent support for Yanyuk and its accusation made earlier this week from Foreign Ministry spokesman Alexander Lukashevich that Washington is trying to tell the authorities of a sovereign state that what they should do next and how they should do it. Such international back and forth is especially significant significant in the Ukraine, given not only its geographic and uh, political position betwixt Europe and Russia, and the origins of the latest unrest. It began in November with Yanukov's decision to scuttle an European Union trade pact that the opposition hoped would bring the Ukraine closer to the West and improve its economy in the process. The next month, Russian President Vel, Vladimir Putin announced that Russia would buy 15 billion US dollars in Ukrainian debt and slash the price Kiev pays for its gas. As the month rolled on, the conflict expanded beyond the long simmering discord over whether Ukraine should ally more with the West or with Russia. The opposition has pressed to change how the Eastern European nations' governments operates, namely through constitutional and other reforms that would, among other things, shift powers away from its president and toward parliament.